Her husband had told her she could be replaced by any woman, but the Korean Mafia boss proved her irreplaceable. She had a career most people only dream about. Senior position, 14th floor, the best company in West Africa, built from nothing, with nothing but her own hands and her refusal to fail. Then she fell in love. She resigned. She followed him to South Korea. 2 months of silence. Cooking, cleaning, being nobody. When she finally said she wanted to work, he told her no. He said he would provide. He said she was his wife, and that was enough. She found a job anyway. He found out. And he said it calm, direct, like it cost him nothing. Any woman could take her place, any time. She heard him. She went to work the next morning. What he did not know was who her boss was, what that man controlled, what he was capable of when someone he valued was treated like she was nothing. He was about to find out. If this story is already pulling at you, you're in the right place. This channel is built for people who know that real love does not ask you to disappear. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story. Now, let's go back to where this all began. Adaize Mina Okafor stood in front of the mirror at 6 in the morning and checked herself the way a soldier checks a weapon before walking into battle. Charcoal blazer, white blouse, heels pressed firmly to the floor, natural hair pinned at the crown, not one strand out of place. She had been doing this since she was 22, building herself into someone no room could ignore. Her father drove a Danfo bus in Oshodi for 16 years. Her mother sold boiled groundnuts outside a school gate in Mushin, 20 naira per wrap. Every school fee Mina ever paid came from those 2 pairs of tired hands. She had made herself a promise the night she watched her mother count money on a kitchen table, counting once, counting twice, making sure there was enough. She promised she would not waste it. By 25, she had a first-class degree from the University of Lagos. By 27, she was the youngest senior executive assistant in the history of Nexon Capital Group, the best financial consulting firm in all of West Africa. Her desk was on the 14th floor. Her view was the Lagos Lagoon in the morning light. She had built every inch of it herself. Then she met Emeka. He was the kind of charming that catches you when you're not looking for it. He didn't perform it. He just made you feel, within 10 minutes of meeting him, that you were the most interesting person in the room. He brought her suya at 11 p.m. when she was still at the office. He remembered she took her tea without sugar. He said she was the most brilliant woman he'd ever met, and it didn't sound like flattery. It sounded like awe. 18 months later, he proposed on a rooftop in Victoria Island. She said yes before he finished the sentence. Their wedding was small and warm and full of people who loved them. Her father cried in the front row. Her mother danced until her feet gave out. Mina stood at that altar and thought she was walking into the rest of her life. She had no idea what she was actually walking into. 4 months into the marriage, she came home from a full day of back-to-back presentations to find Emeka sitting at the dining table, not eating, not on his phone, just sitting, with the posture of a man who has been rehearsing something for hours. He turned his laptop toward her without saying, "Hello." An email, Cortex Solutions, Senior Finance Manager. Seoul, South Korea. She read it once. She read it again. "When do they need an answer?" she asked. "Friday," he said. The Lagos evening pressed through the windows. She kept her face steady. "You applied without telling me. I didn't think I'd get it. But you got it." "Yes." She looked at that email and did the math that wives do. Not just financial math, life math. 9,000 kilometers, a language she didn't speak. A country where she had no network, no name, no foundation. 5 years of building a career at Nexon. 5 years of proving herself, one rung at a time, in a company that hadn't made space for her until she made it herself. "What happens to my job?" she asked. He reached across the table and took her hands. His voice went soft. He said she had been running at full speed for years. He said maybe this was a season for her to breathe. He said he wanted to be the one who carried things for once. She looked at his hands over hers. She loved him. That was the problem. She loved him enough to say yes to something that would cost her more than he would ever understand. Her last day at Nexon, her boss, Mr. Adeleke, shook her hand at the door. He was a serious man who didn't say things he didn't mean. He said, "Mina, I have never once had to redo your work. Wherever you go, they'll be lucky." She held herself together through the small party, through the card, through the hugs, and the colleague who started crying. She held it together until she was alone in her car in the car park. Then she put her head on the steering wheel and let herself feel the full weight of what she'd just handed in. 12 minutes, that was all she allowed. Then she started the car and drove home to help Emeka finish packing. Seoul in October bites. The cold gets inside you. It finds the gap between your coat and your collar and it stays there, permanent and unimpressed. Mina stepped out of Incheon Airport with their luggage around her feet and breathed in air that smelled like nothing she recognized. Emeka loved it immediately. He started his job on Monday, left at 7:30 in his best suit, came home at 7 in the evening full of stories, colleagues, boardrooms, the view from his 22nd floor office. He was the most alive she had seen him in years. And Mina stayed home. Week 1, she unpacked the apartment. She learned the subway lines. She found the grocery store 3 streets over, where a kind old woman would gesture patiently at each item until Mina understood what she was holding. Week 2, she organized every cabinet. Week 3, she reorganized them. She cooked meals that took 3 hours, because she had 3 hours. Then 3 more. Then 3 after that. She cleaned things that weren't dirty. She watched television in Korean with English subtitles because at least that way she was learning something. She started sleeping later and later each morning. Not because she was tired, because morning meant the beginning of another day with nothing in it. And another day with nothing in it meant another day of becoming someone she had promised herself she would never be. Emeka noticed none of it. 8 weeks after they arrived, she set down her fork at the dinner table and said it plainly. "I want to go back to work." He looked up. "You don't need to work," he said. "I make enough." "This isn't about money." "Then what is it about?" He put down his chopsticks. His voice carried that particular tone patient in the way that was really impatient. "You have a comfortable home, everything you need. What's missing, Mina?" She looked at him across the food she had cooked and the table she had set in the apartment she had organized 3 times over. "Me?" she said. "I'm missing." He called her dramatic. He said she was still adjusting. He said it had only been 8 weeks. Then he said something that landed differently than the rest. He said she didn't speak Korean. He said she didn't understand the business culture here. He said she'd embarrass herself trying to compete in a market she knew nothing about. The table went quiet. "Okay," she said. She picked up her fork. She kept eating. He took that for agreement. It was not agreement. The next morning, while Emeka was at work, Mina opened the laptop. She spent 2 hours doing what she always did, with problems she mapped them. Which companies in Seoul used English as a working language? Which sectors matched her background? Which roles were realistic for a candidate without Korean language skills? She built a spreadsheet. She rewrote her CV that afternoon, had it reviewed by evening, sent 7 applications by midnight. 4 days later, her phone rang with a Seoul number. HK Group. If you knew Seoul, and plenty of people were very careful about how much they let on that they did, you knew that name. One of the largest privately held conglomerates in the country. Real estate, logistics, private equity, technology. The kind of company that occupied space, in a way smaller companies, simply did not. The woman on the phone was Park Ji-yeon, head of executive administration. She spoke English with crisp precision and asked Mina 3 questions in the first 5 minutes that most candidates stumbled through because they required judgment, not just knowledge. Mina didn't stumble. She was called in on Tuesday. The HK Group headquarters rose 62 floors from the center of Gangnam in black glass that absorbed light rather than reflected it. The lobby was cold and high-ceilinged and very quiet. Security personnel in dark suits moved through it with the unhurried certainty of people trained for specific, serious purposes. Mina walked in wearing her gray blazer and her black heels with her hair pinned at the crown. She did not feel out of place. She had earned the right to walk into rooms like this. No city, no husband, no empty apartment was going to take that from her. Park Ji-yeon was slim and sharp, and had reading glasses pushed up on her forehead, and the manner of a woman who had seen every kind of candidate and was rarely impressed. She became more attentive 3 minutes into the interview. By the end, she was leaning forward. "The role is executive secretary to our CEO," she said. She paused. "He is demanding. He doesn't repeat himself. The 4 people before you found the role very difficult." "What made it difficult?" Mina asked. Ji-yeon studied her. "He moves very fast. He expects the people around him to already be where he's going before he arrives." "That's not difficult," Mina said. "That's just paying attention." Ji-yeon was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. "Small. Real. We'll be in touch," she said. They were in touch the next morning. Mina had the job. She told Emeka that night, calmly, while he was on the couch watching football. "I found a job," she said. "Executive Secretary to the CEO of HK Group. I start tomorrow at 8. He turned from the television slowly, the kind of slow that was meant to communicate something. "I told you no," he said. "You told me what you preferred," she said. "I made a different decision. I am your husband. Yes, and I'm your wife, not a piece of furniture you relocated and put in a corner." She kept her voice flat, even. "This isn't a discussion. I'm telling you what I'm doing." He stood up. "You'll regret this." "Maybe," she said, "but not the way I regret sitting in that apartment watching my mind go empty." She walked to the bedroom. She laid out her charcoal blazer and her black heels. She set her alarm for 5:30. She slept better that night than she had in 2 months. Here is what the financial world knew about Han Jae-won. 38 years old. Running HK Group since 32, since the morning his father had a stroke in the boardroom, and Jae-won walked in from wherever he'd been and sat at the head of the table without being invited, and said, in the voice of someone who had always known this day was coming, "Continue." He had tripled HK Group's assets in 6 years. He was private. He was precise. He had been photographed at exactly 4 social events in 3 years, always in a dark suit, always with the expression of a man who was already thinking about where he had to be next. And then there was the other thing, the thing Seoul knew but never wrote down. The Han family had controlled the Gangnam underworld for 40 years, not loudly, quietly, through debts, through favors, through the shared understanding among every person in the city who mattered that certain things ran smoothly in Seoul because the Han family willed it, and that when something disrupted that smoothness, it did not stay disrupted for long. Jae-won had inherited both, the boardroom and the other room. He wore them the same way, cold, precise, completely without apology. He had gone through 4 executive secretaries in 2 years. The first leaked a document. She was gone from the building before he said a single word to her. The second tried to leverage her access to him. She was escorted out by security that same hour, and her professional record quietly became difficult to locate in any database that mattered in Seoul. The third and fourth simply couldn't keep up. He moved too fast. He thought in too many directions at once. On the morning Mina started, he arrived at 8:12 to find a new person at the secretary's desk. Nigerian, dressed precisely, reading a printed brief with the focused attention of someone who needed no audience for working hard. She stood when she heard him coming, not scrambling, not flustered, smooth. "Good morning, Mr. Han. I'm Mina Obi. I started today. You have a budget review at 9, a Tokyo call at 11:30, and your afternoon is clear from 2. The brief for the budget review is on your desk. Is there anything you'd like changed?" He looked at her for 4 seconds. "No," he said. He walked into his office. At 9 a.m., the budget review ran without a single administrative problem for the first time in 4 months. He said nothing about this, but he noticed. He always noticed. 3 weeks in, Mina was herself again. She learned his patterns within days. He liked his schedule in 90-minute blocks, with deliberate gaps for thinking he had told her this once and never again. He sent emails at 6:15 a.m. He never used 2 words where one would do. She gave him that. And then more. By the end of the second week, she had learned enough basic Korean to follow the flow of conversations in the building without a translator. Ji-Yun stopped by her desk with coffee and said simply, "You are very quick." "I don't like not understanding things," Mina said. Ji-Yun laughed. It surprised her. They were becoming, carefully and professionally, the beginning of something like friendship. Han Jae-won said nothing personal. He never did. But she began to notice how his eyes moved when she entered a room. Not inappropriately, more like a man watching a calculation resolve correctly. Like she was a problem that kept producing the right answer, and he found this interesting. At home, things were moving in the opposite direction. Emeka hadn't forgiven her. He didn't say so directly. He expressed it the way some men express things through distance, through monosyllables at dinner, through the specific way he looked at her when she came home after 7. Not a question, a closed door. One Thursday night, she walked in at 7:40 to find his dinner untouched and his mood filling the room before she reached it. "Late again," he said. "I texted you. You're the secretary." He put the word down like a stone. "Since when do secretaries keep these hours?" "Since their CEO operates across 4 time zones." He set down his phone. He looked at her directly. And then he said it carefully, like he'd been saving it for exactly this moment. "I could replace you. Any man in Seoul could replace you as a wife. Any company could replace you as a worker. You are not as irreplaceable as you think." The kitchen was very quiet. The overhead light hummed. The dinner she hadn't cooked yet sat cold in a grocery bag on the counter. Outside, Seoul moved through the dark in its usual relentless way, completely unbothered. Mina set her keys on the counter. She walked to the bathroom. She ran cold water over her hands and stood over the sink for a long time looking at herself in the mirror. She was still Mina. Still the woman with the sharp eyes and the set jaw. Still the woman who had built herself from nothing and proved herself in every room that tried to keep her out. She dried her hands. She went back to the kitchen and cooked dinner. She ate alone. He didn't apologize. She didn't ask him to. But something had shifted, something small and load-bearing, the kind that once it moves, changes everything built above it. It was a Saturday. She went to the market for vegetables, tomatoes, bell peppers, onions, everything she needed for the kind of stew her mother used to make on Saturday mornings in Lagos. She was gone 90 minutes. She came back at 11:30. The front door was unlocked. She stepped inside. There was a red leather bag on the couch, a woman's bag, one she had never seen before. And beside the front door, black heels, high, placed side by side with a neatness that was somehow worse than carelessness would have been, like someone who planned to stay. The apartment was not fully quiet. Sounds from the bedroom, a low voice, a laugh that stopped the moment she walked in. Mina stood in that hallway, grocery bag in her hands, cold October air, still in her coat. She crossed the hallway in 4 steps. She pushed open the bedroom door. Emeka was there, with a woman young, her hands flying up the instant she saw Mina, her face going white. Emeka scrambled upright, and his expression moved through guilt, through embarrassment, and then settled almost immediately into something else. Not remorse. Defiance. Like he had been caught. But he was not, actually, going to apologize for it. Mina turned around. She walked to the living room. She picked up the red leather bag. She walked back and placed it just inside the bedroom door. "Get out of my house," she said to the woman. Her voice was so steady it frightened even her. The woman was dressed and out the front door in under a minute. The apartment door closed. Silence. Emeka came out. He started. "Mina, you said any woman could replace me," she said. She wasn't looking at him. She was looking at the coffee table she had bought herself from the market down the road and carried home on the subway. "You were proving it, in my house, with my groceries at my feet." It wasn't. What was it? Now she looked at him. He opened his mouth. He closed it. She went to the bedroom. She pulled her suitcase from under the bed. She began to pack one item at a time, methodically, with absolute composure, the way she did everything that mattered. "What are you doing?" he asked from the doorway. "I'm leaving," she said. She folded a blouse, placed it. "I'll have my lawyer contact you." "Mina, you cannot." "I can." She zipped a compartment. She straightened. She looked at him full in the face. "You told me I was replaceable. Then you tried to replace me in the home I kept, while I was at the market buying food to feed you." She closed the suitcase. "I hope she was worth it. I genuinely hope so. Because you are about to lose something you will never find again." She picked up the suitcase. She walked out. She did not look back. She ended up in a small hotel in Mapo, clean, quiet, nothing remarkable about it except that it was not that apartment. She sat on the edge of the hotel bed, and she let herself fall apart. Quietly, completely. The way private people fall apart, no audience, no performance, just the full weight of it landing all at once. She cried for the marriage she had believed in, for the man she'd thought she'd married, for the career she'd handed in, and the city she'd left, and the woman she'd spent 2 months becoming in that apartment in Seoul. She let herself have all of it, for a long time. Then she washed her face. She laid out her clothes for Monday. Charcoal blazer, white blouse, black heels. She said out loud, into the empty room, "You are still Mina." She set her alarm for 5:30. She slept. Monday morning, she was at her desk at 7:55. The brief was on Han Jae-won's desk before he arrived. When he walked in at 8:12, everything was exactly where it needed to be. She looked no different on the outside, but something in the way she held herself had changed, not broken something else, like a woman who had nothing left to protect and had therefore become completely unafraid. Ji-yeon walked past at mid-morning, placed a cup of coffee on Mina's desk without a word, and kept walking. Mina looked at the cup. "Thank you," she said. Ji-yeon waved without turning around. It was one of the kindest things anyone had done for her in months. That same evening, Bae Sung-ho placed a tablet on Han Jae-won's desk. Sung-ho was his head of security. 11 years. He moved through rooms like furniture moves through rooms present, placed, noticed only when he needed to be. He surfaced when he had something worth saying. "The secretary," he said. "You should know." Jae-won looked at the screen. A divorce filing, petitioner, Obi Adayeze Mina, filed Monday, through an English-language legal service in Seoul. He read it twice. Then he thought about Monday morning, about the way she had been at her desk at 7:55, brief, prepared, schedule organized. Nothing visibly different, not a crack, not a tremor, not a single degree of distance from her usual standard. She had filed divorce papers and showed up to work the next morning at the same level she always worked. He stood. He walked to the window. Seoul spread below him in the dark 10 million people, the city his family had shaped in both the ways they could. "She's in a hotel," he said. "Yes," Sung-ho said. "That's not acceptable." He said it the way he said everything as a fact about the state of the world that required correction. "The Hanamdong suite. Is it occupied?" "No." "Then it won't be empty anymore." He turned from the window. And Sung-ho. "Yes. If the husband comes near this building, if he makes contact with her in any way she didn't initiate," his voice didn't change. Not louder, not harder, just certain. "There are consequences he won't enjoy. Make sure he understands, without me having to say it twice." Sung-ho was quiet for a moment. "Understood," he said. He left. Jae-won went back to the Tokyo files. She found the envelope on Tuesday morning. White, her name in Korean, and beneath it in English, Mina. Inside a key card, a document, and a handwritten note in clean angular script. The company maintains residential suites for senior staff and extended projects. The Hanamdong property is unoccupied. Use it for as long as you need it. HJW. She read it 3 times. She texted Ji-yeon. "Did you know about this?" Ji-yeon replied in 40 seconds. No, but I'm not surprised. Just say thank you, and don't make it strange. When Jae-won arrived at 8:12, she was at her desk. She stood. Everything was ready. Good morning, Mr. Han. Morning. Thank you, she said, quietly, clearly. He stopped at his office door, just barely. The pause of a man acknowledging something without making ceremony of it. Tokyo legal team is calling early. Move the 9:30 to 9. Done, she said. He went in. She updated the calendar. Neither of them said anything else about the envelope. That evening, she went to Hanamdong. The suite was on the 14th floor, floor-to-ceiling windows. A view of Namsan Mountain, dark and solid and enormous. She set her suitcase down in the bedroom and stood at that window for a long time. She was still Mina, but for the first time since she'd landed in Seoul, Mina had somewhere to stand. Emeka found out where she worked on a Wednesday afternoon. Ji-yeon called her desk first. There's a man in the lobby, says he's your husband. He's my soon-to-be ex-husband, Mina said. I'll come down. I'm coming with you, Ji-yeon said. Not a question. He was in the lobby, still well-dressed, still the handsome man she had married, looking slightly out of place in the cold, black glass severity of HK Group, though working hard not to show it. We need to talk, he said. Talk through the lawyers, she said. Mina, he shifted. Lowered his voice. This is fixable. Come home. I don't have a home with you. You're throwing away our marriage over one mistake. Over a woman's bag on my couch, she said. Over shoes placed neatly at my door by someone who planned to stay. You pushed me to this. His voice dropped further. You chose this job over me. You changed. You became someone who was always somewhere else. Stop. Her voice was flat. I won't stand in the lobby of my workplace and listen to you make your choices into my fault. Leave the building. He stared at her. She looked back. She didn't flinch. He turned to go, then stopped, turned back, and he said it one more time quietly, with the cold precision of a man who has run out of everything else. You think this CEO values you? You're replaceable here too, Mina. You're replaceable everywhere. That's just the truth. He walked out. The lobby doors closed behind him. Ji-yeon moved to her side. He's wrong, Ji-yeon said. Mina said nothing. They went back upstairs. What Mina didn't know was that Han Jae-won had been crossing the mezzanine above the lobby when it happened. He'd been walking to a 2:00 meeting when he saw her below. He stopped. He watched the full exchange from above, couldn't hear the words, but he'd spent his entire life reading situations from a distance. He saw the other man lean in with his final sentence. He saw the way Mina absorbed it, the quarter-inch lift of her chin, the shoulders that didn't move. He arrived at his meeting 2 minutes late. That evening, he called Sung-ho. The husband came to the building. I have it from 3 cameras, Sung-ho said. He won't come back, Jae-won said. And find out if there are financial vulnerabilities in his position at Cortec, quietly. Sung-ho was silent for a beat. I'll be discreet, he said. You always are, Jae-won said. That's why I keep you. 2 weeks later, Jae-won put a folder on her desk himself. Tokyo restructuring, he said. Administrative coordination. You're in every senior meeting for the next 3 weeks. You manage communication between legal, finance, and executive. Everything flows through you. He paused. Can you do that? She looked at the folder. She understood the scope of it immediately. Yes, she said. He turned to leave, then stopped. Abi. She looked up. I don't give assignments like this to people I'm uncertain about, he said. Be certain about yourself. He walked away. She opened the folder. For 3 weeks, she worked like she hadn't worked since Nexon. 6 a.m. calls with Tokyo, midnight document reviews, simultaneous management of legal, finance, and executive communication across a deal where one misrouted email could do real damage. She built systems. She tracked every thread in a master document that Ji-yeon looked at one afternoon and said was the most organized thing she'd ever seen come out of this office. And through all of it, Jae-won watched. Not hovering, he wasn't that kind of man. But she learned the texture of his attention. The way he'd shift in a meeting toward her when something needed clarifying, trusting her to have the answer before the question finished. The way documents appeared on her desk with 2 words written at the top, your thoughts. Not check this, not review this, your thoughts. Like her perspective was a specific thing of value he was requesting. She gave it to him, clear, direct, sometimes blunt. He acted on it. Every time. At the end of the 3rd week, the Tokyo deal was confirmed. The senior team gathered in the conference room in quiet collective relief. Jae-won stood at the head of the table. The administrative coordination on this project was exceptional, he said. Every meeting ran correctly. Every document landed accurately. Every communication reached its destination on time. He paused. His eyes moved briefly, specifically to Mina at the edge of the room. That doesn't happen without someone holding everything together while the rest of us worked. The room looked at her. She kept her face composed. Hands still. Posture exactly what it always was. But inside, something she had been clenching for months without even realizing she was clenching it slowly let go. After the room cleared, he placed a folder on the table beside her without stopping. She opened it. A contract amendment. Senior Executive Coordinator. A title that hadn't existed in HK Group's hierarchy before this moment, built specifically for one person. The salary made her breath catch when she saw the number. There was a note clipped to the front. Irreplaceable things are worth naming correctly. HJW. She read it once. She read it again. She sat alone in that conference room with the city going gold through the windows and the note in her hands, and she understood clearly, fully, without any confusion about what it meant. Then she picked up her pen, and she signed. The divorce was finalized on a Thursday in November. The email arrived at 11:42 a.m. She read it. She closed it. She finished the document she was working on. She sent 3 emails that needed to go before noon. Then she went to the bathroom, stood over the sink, and breathed. She had done her crying in private late nights in the Hanamdong suite, early mornings before the city woke up. She had given all of it the grief it deserved, the marriage, the man she had loved, the future she had planned. But standing over that sink, on that gray Thursday, what she felt was not grief. It was something clean, like a room emptied out and ready to be filled with things that actually belonged in it. That evening, Jae-won appeared at her desk at 6:30. Go home, Obi. I have 3 things. Tomorrow, he said. He looked at her. Tonight, something in his face was different, like a curtain pulled back from a window that was always there. You work hard every day. Tonight, you don't have to. She looked at him. This man who had watched her walk into his building with nothing but her credentials and her dignity, who had never once asked her to be less than what she was, who had moved her out of a hotel, built her a title, and left a note that said what she had always known about herself in plain, permanent writing. There's a Korean barbecue place near the Hanam building, she said. Ji-yeon mentioned it. I've been meaning to try it. A pause opened between them. I know the owner, he said. Another pause. Shorter. Then maybe you could make sure the table is good, she said. Something moved at the corner of his mouth, not quite a smile. The thing just before a smile, private, real, impossible to perform. I'll make sure the table is good, he said. She shut down her computer. She put on her coat. And she walked out of that building, not running from anything, not carrying any wreckage, just walking towards something. With the city of Seoul lit up ahead of her, and the cold, clean air of November on her face, and every step landing exactly where she meant it to. Emeka Obi left Seoul 6 months later. His contract at Cortec was not renewed. There were no dramatic events. Opportunities that should have opened didn't. References that should have been strong came back strangely neutral. Seoul became, quietly and completely, unavailable to him. He went back to Lagos. People who heard this understood, without being told, that some things have consequences that arrive on their own schedule. The standing reservation at Yamamoto Korean Barbecue in Hanamdong was never canceled. Not for a board meeting, not for a Tokyo call, not for anything. The building staff understood this without being told twice. It was a table for two. The second seat belonged to the senior executive coordinator of HK Group, the woman who had walked into a company where 4 people before her had failed and had made herself necessary inside of 3 weeks. The woman who had filed divorce papers alone in a city that was not hers and showed up to work the next morning at the same standard she always worked. Ji-yeon knew all of this, of course. Ji-yeon knew everything. She said nothing about any of it to anyone, except once on a Wednesday, over the macarons she'd been bringing to Mina's desk for months now, chocolate for herself, strawberry for Mina. She sat in the chair across from the desk, and they ate in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Ji-yeon said, "They said he was impossible to work for." "He's demanding," Mina said. "He expects excellence." "Just excellence?" Mina thought about a note on a contract. Irreplaceable things are worth naming correctly. She thought about a keycard left on her desk, without fanfare. About a man who watched everything, and had watched her from the first morning, from the mezzanine above the lobby, from across every boardroom they had ever sat in together and had seen, every single time, exactly what she was. "He told me to be certain about myself," she said. "That first week, before he gave me more than my actual job." "Were you?" Ji-yeon asked. "Certain?" Mina looked out the window. Seoul in November, bare branches in the park across the street, cold blue sky, people moving below with their collars up and their breath making small clouds in the air. She thought about a kitchen table in Lagos, a woman counting money twice, a girl making a promise in the dark. She thought about a suitcase packed in a Seoul apartment while a man stood in the doorway and said nothing worth saying. She thought about a hotel room in Mapo and 12 minutes of feeling it all and then starting the car. "I've always been certain about myself," she said. "I just needed somewhere that agreed." Ji-yeon smiled into her coffee. Outside, Seoul moved the way it always moved, fast, precise, indifferent to whatever any single person was going through inside it. But in a suite on the 14th floor in Hanamdong, a woman who had been told she was replaceable slept without her alarm set for the first time in months. And in a restaurant 2 streets away, a table was already reserved for Friday evening. A table for 2. Her name was on it. If this story stayed with you, you're exactly who this channel is made for. Subscribe and share this video with someone who needs to hear it.